You say mentioning Joe, the Jeff Lacey fight.
Gosh, that's staggering, there. Flawless.
I can remember people thinking that he had no chance of winning it, and I thought, with my judgment, I thought to myself, have I seen the same guy here as everybody else? And I thought he was perfect for Joe.
Yeah, I mean, we did a 5 live show from Manchester before then, and we revealed.
I remember having words with Mike Costello. He just wouldn't have it.
He wouldn't have it at all. No, Mike was adamant.
Adamant it was going to be a walkover for Lacey.
And I was adamant, and I think I remember saying, and Enzo always remembers this. Enzo, Joe's dad, saying that not only will Joe win, and I'm not being an after time as I said it live, he'll win every second of every round. I mean, and it was that way. Those were fantastic. Let me just ask you this. Robert Palmer sends a text. He says, can you ask Frank what's happening with Kevin Mitchell and the Walsh brothers, Frank? Mitchell and the Walsh brothers. Where are we with that little lot?
Walsh brothers are fighting in September.
Cool.
They're all fighting in September. Kevin, unfortunately, after his loss, he sustained an eye injury, an old injury, and he's had an operation on his eye, and hopefully he'll be back in training in November.
Well, that'd be good. And Guy sent an email and he says, could you ask Frank what would be the one thing he would change across the entire sport to improve? What would be the one thing you'd introduce or change, Frank, across the entire sport?
I think a world governing body like a FIFA.
Yeah, preferably not one with a blatter at the top of it. But I know what you're saying.
No,
Frank, the coming up on this September 18th, you've got all these kids in, and I understand you want to get them all out and you want to do that, but there is a great risk in putting this much money on one night, isn't there? There is a risk involved, massive risk involved.
The tickets, thankfully the tickets have gone well. Good. We've sold winning up to 10,000 sales now, so we've got just over 3 weeks, and I'm sure it'll be a sellout. Bearing in mind it's August, been holiday period, so they'll go. But it's a pay-per-view show, and people may say, why is it pay-per-view? The reason is because we've put such a expensive bill together, and the only way we can get a rights fee is to sell it to the public as what it is, an event. It's not just a fight on it. It is an event. That's why we call it the Magnificent Seven. You've got 7 cracking fights with some of the best young fighters, I think, around, certainly in Britain, and. It is a gamble, though, but it is a gamble.
It is a gamble. The Kevin Mitchell night, that was a gamble with Cat Seeders. I'm assuming that's a night when you didn't make any money. It
was a shame because sometimes you put your money up to get your guy the home advantage. You're hoping that he can pull it off, and if it does, then obviously that's good for him. It's good for the promoters, the investment. You can start getting some return on it. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be on the night.
It's good for everybody, and it was a great night. I mean, I remember at the time we were doing some stuff on air there saying that it was a great night, and the irony is it was arguably one of your finest promotions because people, and no, I don't think anyone really thought you were going to do 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever 16 or 17,000, which you ended up doing on the night, and it was a proper event. And had he won.
But what we have to do is go and promote it, get out and promote it. And I've got a good team that work for me, and everybody pulls together, as a team, who work for me, and we work very hard, and we did not miss a trick in putting it on. It was on the same night as Amir Khan fought.
Yeah, massive.
So the press would, press divided. World title fight, and Amir was more of a name than Kevin. Excuse me, still is.
Yeah.
And it was. It was a gamble, but we did all we could. We got everything as far as Kevin was concerned. Got the opportunity, but unfortunately, a few problems that came out afterwards we were unaware of, and it didn't work out.
Didn't work out on the night. Frank, if you could travel back in time, or maybe not even travel back in time, maybe it's just a fight you missed. What fight would you take yourself off to at ringside with a couple of fellas for a good night? What if you could?
Well, actually, to see it
live. If you could get in a TARDIS and vanish.
I think it's got to be any of the Frazier, Ali fights. I would love to have gone and seen any of those.
Because you know someone, people that you had family at the
my family, a couple of my family. They went out, they were at ringside,
And can they bring that up and trump you if ever there's a conversation about good nights?
I'm always getting trumped. I'm getting trumped on a regular basis these days. Yeah. No, it's there's a lot of people who. It's age, isn't it? I mean, I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky to be in, to to sort of be doing something that I've, be involved in a sport I've always really enjoyed, to be at, the sort of front end of it, and it's been good. I've got living out of it. It's educated my kids and given me a good lifestyle, my family a good lifestyle, and more importantly, I've met some really good people on the way, and done things that I never expected to do as a kid.
One of those good people, a friend of ours, Jay, good friend of yours, and I wrote a bit about him in this month's Boxing Monthly. Jay Larkin passed away. A guy that made so many fights happen and made so much happen for so many fighters. But I understand. I was reading Alan Hubbard's piece. Apparently, when you flew out there were no world champions at his due. No. This guy Jay Larkin, major TV executive in America for 20 odd years, made fights that shouldn't have happened happen. Fights that people said won't happen. He was instrumental in making them happen. But not one fighter. Not one fighter.
He was very supportive of. There was a lot of people there, a lot of friends.
Of course.
There. No fighters there, but he was a guy, and he was certainly good for a lot of British fighters. I mean, there were people who wanted to drop Joe Calzaghe. And when he left, they dropped Ricky Hatton. It was only that they only came back because people talk about fighters fighting over here, but we've done all these shows. They were shown back to America. I think Joe had about 10 live fights, and then Naz had the same.
Of course.
Ricky had a number of live fights. A lot of our shows were the one you talked about in Park Equestrian, that was shown back in the States. So we've done a lot of shows with him. He was very supportive. He was a really good close friend of mine, and it was really sad what happened to him. He left Showtime, and they dropped a lot of the fighters at the time. Didn't get involved, and that was, as I say, it wasn't good for British boxing. But for one fighter not to show up, I thought was very, very sort of sad.
Yeah, I do too, especially
especially a lot of the amount. I mean, not so much the British fighters. They met him over there. They probably didn't realise the impact that he had.
But the Americans, there's no excuse.
But the American fighters, the Evander Holyfields of this world,
I agree.
He absolutely, done so much for Holyfield, and
that's what I've written about this month. I mean, we know you helped Holyfield when that transition from cruiser to heavyweight. He was the instrumental.
I remember the
building him up there.
Stinker he had against Bobby Ches before he fought Tyson.
Exactly. Which he could have been found himself pushed out. Well, listen, Frank, it's been a pleasure talking to you. So the September 18 show, we've got Nathan Cleverly, we got Macklin, we got Macklin against Barker, we got Enzo Macrinelli, Kell Brook against Michael Jennings, Chisora against Sam Sexton, which is always, I mean, he's great fun, Chisora. I do like him. He is a lot of fun.
That's a good heavyweight fight.
It's a hard one. It ain't a walkover. And then and Frankie Gavin. I've just got to mention Frankie. He's one of my favourite fighters, and I know that you've got a soft spot for him on account of him being a crank. Well, let's not mince our words.
Yeah, it does take one to know one.
It does take one to know one.
And you got James DeGale on there.
Yeah, James on there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a young Don Broadhurst. It's a good night.
I had James on here the other day, don't you, on the show, and completely blew his image because he's a bit outspoken, James. And suddenly I had him on here talking about the Olympics, and he came across like he is. He's still a young man. How excited he was for the Olympics. Came across, he was all like shouty and screamy like a little boy with his new toy.
He's all right. He's all right. Don't worry about it. And he can fight a bit, and. I'm looking forward to the next sort of 12 months of him, because I think he's going to make his mark.
I mean, the way I look at it, Frank, just before I let you go, is that with these 4, 5 or 6 or 7 and then half a dozen coming through, we've got another good 4 or 5 years there, haven't we?
Oh, more,
I mean, with these now, it's a good 4 or 5 years.
I mean, and you mentioned the Walsh brothers. I mean, if young Ricky Burns can do a trick up
next
there,
week,
Stephen Smith and John Simpson fight on, and
some good stuff.
Tony Bellews fighting at the Deborah do on the 24th. So some really good youngsters, and hopefully, I think a few of them are going to make their mark. Yeah,
and then we've got 2012, and that'll be fantastic for boxing, because boxing always does good business at the Olympics. Listen, Frank,
let's just hope that the likes of the BBC don't desert them when they turn pro.
Yeah, well, listen, that would be good from purely from a selfish point of view. That would be fantastic if they didn't. Meanwhile, we are on BBC London every single Thursday night from next week between 8 and 9.
Well, you remember that the fight's on radio.
5 Live as well, yeah.
Yeah, 5 Live. So you can't watch it, but you can see it.
Yeah, we'll do.
No, you can't watch it, but you can listen to it.
Yeah, and if we'll do. I think we'll try. I mean, I think 5 Live are planning on doing something in the week up there, a bit like we do. I mean, you got to. It's a big night, and I think it needs to be pushed away.
Well,
Frank, listen.
Radio support it, and we're all grateful.
Well, we'll do. Listen, Frank, thanks very much for your time this evening. I'll speak to you very soon, and thanks again. And see if I don't see you before September the 18th, I'll see you on the night. Frank Warren, thanks very much.
Thanks, Steve.
No problem, boss man. Frank Warren there, talking very openly. He would have taken calls. He would have taken anything. He'd answer anything. There's a couple of texts came in asking about things. I worked in most of the questions about whether or not it was a danger putting all these fights on one bill. That's the way it works. We just worked on. We worked it all in, as they say in the trade.